Do you ever finish a day feeling completely exhausted, but when you look back, you can't quite explain what you actually did? You weren't scrolling all day, you weren't lying on the sofa, you were busy, and yet the important things just didn't move forward. If that sounds familiar, this video might explain why, because there's a hidden mental load most people are carrying, and it's quietly killing your ability to focus. Not distractions, not a lack of discipline, not motivation, mental load. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most people think focus problems come from outside, phones, notifications, email, social media. But in reality, the biggest strain on your focus is happening inside your head. It's all the things you're holding mentally, the tasks you haven't clearly defined, the decisions you keep postponing, the projects you've half started, the things you keep telling yourself, I'll deal with that later. Psychologists call these open loops, and your brain treats every open loop as unfinished business. Here's the key thing most people don't realise. Your brain doesn't let go of unfinished things. Research going all the way back to the Zeigarnik effect shows that incomplete tasks stay active in your mind, even when you're not consciously thinking about them. They sit in the background, pulling attention, draining energy, using up mental bandwidth. So when you sit down to focus, you're not starting with a clean slate. You're starting with a browser that already has 47 tabs open. That's why focus feels hard. Not because you're bad at concentrating, but because your mental RAM is already full. Half-written emails, vague tasks like sort marketing, decisions like I should really decide about that offer, personal stuff you haven't resolved, work stuff you haven't clarified. Your brain is constantly whispering, don't forget about this. You need to deal with that. This is important, even when you try to ignore it. This is why so many people feel distracted even when they remove distractions. You close the apps, you tidy the desk, you block the websites, and yet your mind still won't settle. Because the noise isn't external, it's internal. You're not bad at focusing, you're overloaded. This realization hit me hard during my first attempt at running a business. On the surface, I looked productive. I was building a website. And it was beautiful. Every pixel was perfect. Every word was polished. Everything just right. But behind the scenes, I was mentally exhausted and completely stuck. I couldn't bring myself to do things that actually mattered. Selling, launching, putting myself out there. I told myself I was being strategic. In reality, my brain was drowning. Everything was open. Nothing was clearly defined. Every task carried emotional weight. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't incapable. I was overloaded. That experience forced me to step back and ask a different question. Instead of how do I be more productive, it became why does my brain shut down when things matter most? That question eventually led to what I now call the Overwhelm Audit, one of the core pillars of my momentum reset method. And today I want to teach you one simple concept from it that can dramatically reduce mental load. Here it is. Your brain does not need you to finish everything. It needs you to close loops. And closing a loop doesn't mean completing a task. It means removing uncertainty. So most people think writing something down closes the loop. It doesn't. If you write launch email campaign on a to-do list, that loop is still wide open. Your brain doesn't know where to start, what done looks like, how long it will take, so it keeps the task active and draining. A loop only closes when one of these three things happens. You decide it's done. You decide the next clear action, or you decide when you will revisit it. Anything else stays open. Let me give you a concrete example. Work on marketing. That's not a task, that's a category. Your brain hears that and thinks, what does that even mean? Now, compare it to this. Write 3 subject line options for next week's email, 15 minutes. Suddenly, the loop tightens. Your brain knows what to do, when to stop, that it's manageable, and the tension drops. You haven't done the work yet, but the mental load has already reduced. That's the power of loop closure. Here's the mistake most people make. They try to power through open loops. They carry them. They avoid them. They feel guilty about them. But guilt is just another form of mental load. The Overwhelm Audit flips this. Instead of asking, how do I get all this done? You ask, what does my brain need to stop panicking? And most of the time, the answer is clarity. When you start closing loops properly, something interesting happens. Focus returns, starting feels easier, decision making improves, anxiety drops. Not because life got simpler, it didn't, but because your brain finally trusts that things are handled. This is why so many productivity tools fail. They focus on output, but procrastination is an input problem. Too much unresolved thinking going in. Once mental load drops, everything else in the momentum reset method starts working better. Micro missions feel doable. Momentum sprints actually happen. Dopamine anchors stick. Momentum doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from removing friction. And mental friction is almost always unresolved loops. If you want to try this today, here's a simple experiment. Take 5 minutes. Dump everything that's currently floating around in your head onto paper or a note. Then pick just one item. Not all of them, just one. And ask, what is the next clear step? Could it be done in 15 minutes? Define it. You don't have to do it yet. Just define it. That single act will probably give you more relief than any productivity hack. If this idea resonated with you and you want a structured way to clear mental load consistently, the Overwhelm Audit is part of a bigger framework I use myself called the Momentum Reset Method. You'll find a link in the description if you want to explore it. But even if you don't, remember this. Focus isn't something you're missing. It's something you can reclaim. And it starts by carrying less in your head. If this helped, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel, and I genuinely love to know what's the one thing that keeps looping in your mind lately.